This lecture is from chapter 10 on motivation and emotion. This lecture is specifically on motivation as it relates to hunger and eating. Some quotes. Hunger is the mother of impatience and anger. And then a quote from the textbook, eating is essential for survival, and it is no surprise that a drive like hunger exists to ensure that we seek out sustenance. So the first question to ask is, how do we know we're hungry? When our stomachs are empty, they contract. Typically, a person then experiences hunger pangs. Chemical messages travel to the brain and serve as a signal to initiate feeding behavior. When our blood glucose levels drop, the pancreas and liver generate a number of chemical signals that induce hunger and thus initiate the feeding behavior. So, second question, what happens once we eat? The body reaches satiation, the satisfaction of a desire or need such as hunger or thirst. That's the definition of satiation, essentially satisfying that need. That occurs because as blood glucose levels increase, the pancreas and liver send signals to shut off hunger and eating. Also, the food's passage through the gastrointestinal tract provides important signals to the brain, and fat cells release leptin, which is also a satiety hormone. Just a diagram, I thought this was an interesting scale, hunger to fullness scale. If you have intense hunger, you might feel irritable, headachy, dizzy, nauseous. I'm sure we've all experienced that. Moderately hungry, a growling stomach, or you feel like it's empty. Neutral, you can sense the food in your stomach. You pretty much feel fine and satisfied. Well, actually satisfied, you're comfortably full. Your delight of food decreases. Intense fullness, which is not really a good feeling and can also produce discomfort, pain, nausea. So that's kind of an interesting scale of going from intense hunger to intense fullness. So let's look at body weight metabolism. Let's define metabolism first. It's how your body turns food and drink into energy to keep you alive and functioning. It's made up of all the chemical processes happening in your body's cells. It's what keeps your body running smoothly. When we think about metabolism, we often focus on how our bodies burn calories from food and drinks, and that is known as your metabolic rate, and it includes the energy your body uses for basic functions, like breathing and keeping your heart beating, the energy necessary to digest and process food, and the energy your body uses for physical activities. So that's an overview of metabolism and the metabolic rate and how that works. Obesity, let's define that. When someone weighs more than what is generally accepted as healthy for a given height, they are considered overweight or obese. Overweight specifically is someone with a body mass index between 25 and 29.9. Obese would be considered someone with a body mass index between 30 and 34.9. Morbidly obese is someone with a body mass index greater than 35. So exactly what is BMI, or what is body mass index? Again, BMI, as you can see in the little blue square at the bottom, is essentially your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. That's how you get a BMI. Again, and you can see the scale: underweight, the certain numbers, normal, overweight, obese, extremely obese, or also known as morbidly obese. That's where you would fall if your BMI was calculated. Some factors contributing to obesity: genetics. Sometimes it's simply genetics. Biology or hormones or metabolic responses, and we already discussed metabolism, and again, hormones can affect that. Our behaviors, of course, lack of physical activity, the amount of food intake, even our sleep habits can contribute to obesity. Psychosocial, our quality of life, bias, stigma. Social determinants of health could be our education, finances, our access to health care, of course, our social community, Those things are surprisingly connected to obesity, believe it or not. You can imagine if you don't have a lot of access to health care, for example, you might not be able to take care of yourself as well as someone who does. So that one of the few factors that can contribute to obesity. What does obesity lead to? Many things. It can lead to diabetes, some forms of cancer, hypertension or high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, breathing problems. It can definitely affect your quality of life. It can lead to arthritis, again, the hypertension or high blood pressure, and heart disease. So it can lead to many physical illnesses. And I think specifically the quality of life. It not only affects you physically, but it can affect you mentally and how you experience life. So now that we've discussed obesity, how do we prevent obesity? Well, here are some steps. Limit fats and sugars, eat more vegetables and fruit, do regular physical activity, and limit screen time and get enough sleep. I think those are all kind of things that we know, but it's not so easy to do. But if we can focus on those things, that should be good ways to prevent obesity. So beyond obesity, let's look at eating disorders. Bulimia nervosa. People suffering from bulimia nervosa engage in binge eating behavior that is followed by an attempt to compensate for the large amount of food consumed. Purging the food by inducing vomiting or through the use of laxatives are two common compensatory behaviors. Some affected individuals will engage in excessive amounts of exercise to compensate for their binges. So that's a basic definition of bulimia. On the other hand, anorexia nervosa is an eating disorder characterized by the maintenance of a body weight well below average through starvation and/or excessive exercise. Individuals with anorexia nervosa often have a distorted body image, referenced in literature as a type of body dysmorphia. Dysmorphia means that they view themselves as overweight, even though they're not. They have a skewed view of their body when they look in the mirror, for example. So, how do you treat an eating disorder? Psychotherapy, in which, of course, a mental health professional can determine the best type of therapy. Options may include individual therapy, group therapy, or therapy with the whole family. Medications, you may have other conditions along with the eating disorder, like anxiety or depression. So, taking an antidepressant or other medications may improve those conditions. And then also nutrition counseling. A registered dietitian with training in eating disorders can help improve eating habits and develop nutritious meal plans. They can also offer tips for grocery shopping, meal planning, and preparation. So those are kind of the three combined treatments: a type of therapy, possibly a type of medication, and possibly a type of nutrition counseling to treat an eating disorder. So those are the basics on how motivation affects hunger. If you have any questions, as always, please let me know.